So you think you know what midlife crises are all about? Well, get ready for the midlife crisis from hell. Repossession is brought to us by directors Ming-Soo Ga and Scott C. Hilliard, and stars Gerald Chu, Amy Ching, and Rachel Wan. 50-year-old Jim has constructed the perfect life in the world's most expensive city. When he is unexpectedly laid off, he desperately clings to symbols of his success, while wrestling with resurfacing demons from his past. So Repossession is basically about this family living in Singapore, and the father, Jim, played by Gerald Chu, unexpectedly loses his job. Now Jim's a really prideful guy, so he doesn't want to tell anybody that he lost his job. He's really embarrassed about it. He doesn't want his wife to know and his family to worry. So he keeps it a secret, and every day he goes off to work, and instead of going to his old job where he made lots of money, now he drives a car kind of like an Uber. Now this isn't quite covering the bills. He's getting all these repossession letters from like the bank about his home and his car and all that stuff. And then Jim has the pressures of not having a job, being able to support for his family that he has all these years, and possibly losing his home and other things that he and his family have amassed, not to mention the embarrassment of being a 50-year-old man, not having a job and being able to support his family. This obviously sends Jim into a bit of a depression. Lots of stress starts to pile on. This is the part of the movie that I think a lot of people will be able to identify with, because we've all been there. Maybe not necessarily to the degree that his character is, but I think every adult has been in a situation to where you had more money going out than you had coming in. And the personal stress that goes along with that can be damning, not to mention the stress it can put on your family. So I do get why Jim didn't want to let his family know about this. He's been the breadwinner, he's been the provider for his family all these years, and now he's just not. He keeps thinking, I'm gonna fix this before anybody knows anything's wrong. And he is trying, but it doesn't seem like the guy can get a foot ahead in the world. And of course, this just makes things worse and worse as time goes on. Now this movie is sold to us as kind of a supernatural thriller, which it does, especially later on in the film, have some elements like that. But the majority of this movie is really about this guy and the stresses of just life and how it can really weigh on a person. And also how that kind of leads to a midlife crisis for this man. And I can attest to those stresses. While I've had a job the vast majority of my adult life, there were short periods of time that I didn't. And while I felt fairly confident I was gonna get one, when you don't have one and you still got bills going out but no money coming in, that can be stressful as hell. Now due to this stress, Jim starts to experience some odd goings on. He starts to see some things, or at least we think it's due to the stress. As the movie goes on, some weirder and weirder things start to happen in conjunction with all this family drama. And as these things start to develop, we start to wonder, is all of this due to the stress he's having with all this other stuff going on? Or is there something deeper and more nefarious really going on here? That's one of the things the movie toys with the audience with a bit. There are times that we're shown things that do appear to be supernatural, but we're never 100% sure if it really is or if this guy's kind of having a mental break. As the movie goes on, we find out he has even more stuff on his plate that we don't know about. And it is very plausible that someone with all this shit on his plate could just be breaking down. But this is the part where I did have a bit of an issue with the movie. It does present this stuff to us in such a way that we're not 100% sure. Even by the end of the movie, honestly, you're not 100% sure. There is evidence that could prove either way. Or at least that's the way the movie presents it to us. There are some things that happen in this movie that I don't really know how in the hell you could think that that just happened in his head. I suppose it could have if you kind of took it and twisted things around in your head and said, well, this entire thing right here was totally fabricated, but it's not ever really presented to us that way. There are things in this movie that happen that other people are involved with that you're like, well, that couldn't possibly be going on in his head because there are real world ramifications for the things that just happen to other people. Now that part I'm okay with. My issue with it is that when this stuff really starts to pop off in the third act, closer to the end of the movie, the tonal shift is extremely jarring. I mean, like one minute we're focusing on the family drama and the midlife crisis that this guy's having, and then the next minute it's like some demonic shit. It's really out there. I get that the movie is trying to trick you and say it could be real, it could not, but like I said, there's some things that happen that just lead you to believe, I don't know how that couldn't be real. It's not the inclusion of this stuff that bothered me, it was the sudden shift that did. It is extremely jarring and absolutely pulls you out of it all. When it happens, you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Did the movie skip? Did I like skip a few minutes and I missed something? Because how did did we get here? What the fuck is going on? And to make things even weirder, after this particular part of the movie, which if you watch it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, it just shifts suddenly again and goes back to normal. And you're just like, what was all that? Did that happen? Did it not? Because some of the people involved in that part show up and it's almost like nothing happened. It's mentioned one other time after that between two characters, but it's really throwaway. And some of the other things that should have been as a result of this particular part of the movie just aren't. It's really confusing. I'm like, did it happen? Did it not? If it did happen, maybe it wasn't necessarily supernatural, maybe something else was going on, but it's almost like it didn't fucking happen, but they mentioned that it happened. It's just really fucking confusing and extremely jarring. If you're willing to overlook a few things and accept some other things that might be a bit far-flung about this story, there is some enjoyment to be gotten here. This movie was fairly entertaining. Now, it is quite the slow burn, and it's not what I was expecting, but I can say that by the end, I had a fairly good time with it, though part of it was really fucking confusing. Now, a slow burn type of drama movie like this rides on its characters, and the characters here I did like. However, I gotta say that while the performances overall are okay, they're not mind-blowing, but they're pretty good, some of the delivery of dialogue is just really stilted and really stiff. It's honestly, it's just not good. Not all of it, but it's enough of it to take a lot of notice of, and it does pull you out of the experience. Which is to say, I guess the performances aren't that great. Now, it is kind of weird because other parts of the movie, the performances are pretty damn good, but this real odd, stiff delivery of dialogue that comes up quite a bit is just really out of place and makes you wonder, what am I watching? It's almost like the movie was filmed with like large gaps in between and the people improved over time or something, but kind of reversed because they're worse later on than they are earlier on. Overall, the performances are just really inconsistent. Now, when it comes to the special effects of this movie, it does start to show its low budget roots. They're not the greatest effects you've ever seen, though they are sparingly used. We only really have one main effect we get of this kind of like shadowy looking character that may or may not be real, but like I said, we don't see it often, and a lot of the times it's in the background out of focus, so it does kind of work. The couple of times the camera does focus on it, yeah, it doesn't look so hot, but like I said, it's not very often. Overall, the movie looks fine and the effects are workable. Guys, overall, I liked what this movie was trying to say, and at times I liked the way they went about it, but the inconsistent, stiff performances and the random jarring shift in tone closer to the end of the movie do knock it down a bit. I think they were able to bring things back around and recoup it by the end, but it doesn't change the fact that there was this portion of the film that I was just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? I do appreciate the interesting way they went about telling their story though, and do think that Repossession is absolutely worth streaming.
Across the street.
This is an interesting, entertaining little movie that if it wasn't for the hiccups closer to the end of the film, I think could have been really great. As it stands though, it is still worth checking out, and if you're looking for a supernatural-esque thriller for the night that's gonna ask a little bit more of you, then check out Repossession, and I think you'll have a pretty good time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of Repossession. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button to help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below, become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys, and possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg C and Dragon Con. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Singapore.
Everything's fine.
So without spoiling anything, there is a part of the movie where this individual shows up on the scene and we are supposed to be scared. And while yes, as you can tell by the way that she looks, she is a bit scary and terrifying looking. However, I gotta say that when this person showed up suddenly on screen, I had a hard time being scared because all I could think about looking at this poor child, and I don't mean this to be offensive, but it is what the fuck it is. While I was looking at it, I said, God damn, that's a big ass fucking forehead. I mean, that's like a fucking 8 hit. Shit.